And presents on the New Year morning. Is there any presents on the Christmas Eve?
So in America, the tradition is Santa Claus comes on the night of December 24th, Christmas Eve, while all the children are sleeping. And he comes down the chimney, hopefully you have one, and he puts presents under the tree. And then when the kids wake up the morning of December 25th, they open their presents. And this happens for the kids if the kids have been good. So
this sounds like you're speaking to your kid.
What's that?
It sounds like you're actually speaking to your kid. If they are good.
So listen up, Christoph. So when I'm with Russians and they open up their presents New Year's Eve sometimes, I'm like, wait, what? How can you do that? They weren't brought yet, And so when I grew up and with my kids in America, we might open one present Christmas Eve and we might have some presents under the tree that are from mom and dad. And then you bring out more presents while the kids are asleep that, let's say, Santa Claus has brought, or Santa Claus actually comes and he brings those gifts for us.
Yes, and I know in Russia, you actually, some families actually order a Santa Claus to come by into the house for the kids and, do a little show. They sit on his lap, maybe sing a little bit, I don't know, something like that. And for us grown-ups, that sometimes in Russia, the Santa Claus might be, he's offered in every place that he goes to, he's offered a little bit of drinks, like vodka, and he gets more and more drunk as he go along. There's even movies about it.
He's going from house to house, making money, doing house calls.
Yes, and also like getting some drinks as he go along. And there's a funny movies and jokes about it.
It makes sense because my wife has told me that families will hire Ded Moroz, which is the Russian version of Santa Claus, which some Russians say is a completely different character, and I understand what they mean. He does have a different backstory. And his granddaughter, Snegurichka, who also has a separate backstory, but the Soviets put them together. And the idea, and not the idea, but you would hire them to come visit. Whereas in America, that does not happen by and large. That's not typical. In America, you're going to a shopping mall, and people have probably seen this in American movies, and you're waiting in line, and then you sit on his lap, and they take a photo, and you tell him what you want for Christmas. Yeah,
I've seen, what was the movie? Bad Santa. Also.
Yeah.
That's a whole different story. But we jumped to the last question about Santa and Father Frost, Ded Moroz. And one thing is different. You basically answered already, but one thing is different also, the clothing. Santa Claus is very like Coca-Cola-ish, red and white, and that type of stuff. And Father Frost is more like... I guess he looks, it's taking influence from the Orthodox clergy clothing, because they're like very similar. And he's like, he looks more like a ruler, where Santa Claus is maybe more like a dedushka, like a granddad.
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely want to address this and talk about this and say what I think. And I
please do.
See what people have to say in the comments. But because I'm a Christian and because I'm a father, I find it a very interesting topic. So, I'll try and be brief. So basically, you have Christianity a long time ago, and you have this guy named Nicholas. And he apparently was a wealthy guy. I think he lived in what is now Turkey, somewhere in there. And you stop me if I'm wrong. And I believe he went through a Holocaust of some kind where a lot of people died. And he was sainted because he was a very giving person. And the legend goes he would like throw gold through the windows, bags of gold through the windows of poor families for children. And over time, this became a myth of Saint Nicholas, Kris Kringle. I think especially was a big deal in German culture. And I think because Martin Luther, who was a German, kind of helped turn it into more of a holiday for kids to inspire kids. And I think that he also started the Christmas tree, where you bring a tree in from outside, which I think had pagan roots. A lot of these things have pagan roots because there were pagan holidays around this time from like the Roman Empire. And I believe the church, whether it be Catholic or Orthodox, or maybe it was all the same thing back then, I'm not sure, in an effort to wipe out the pagan holidays, they made this holiday time, or this Christmas time, at this time in the dead of winter, because they wanted to kind of push out the pagan holidays. Because people argued, well, Jesus wasn't born in winter. And they were like, well, that's okay. We want to celebrate it now anyway, right? And so it's transformed into, Santa Claus giving gifts. But when the Soviet Union started, they didn't want a religious holiday. And so they found a fairy tale character that they had of a guy who looked like Santa Claus similarly, but he was actually, from what I understand, a bad guy character. And they kind of adjusted him. He was like a forest wizard, someone more like Gandalf than Santa Claus. And so that's why he appears to be taller and slimmer and more often wears blue, whereas Santa more often wears red. People like to argue these are completely different characters, and I understand because their backstory, you can definitely make that case. But as
the
a Christian,
idea is the same.
What I would say is both of these characters fill the same role in society, and that is what? When you are a little child and you don't know anything yet, and you can't understand the idea of God, you are taught that there is a kind, old, wealthy man who, if you are good, he will give you gifts. So you are being trained before you are able to understand the concept of God, that you need to perform a certain way for a God-type character. So I think in that way, these are the same character. These are the same people. They're performing the same function in society. And that's something that as Christians, we should embrace and feel excited about. If I'm right. If I'm wrong, hopefully people will let me know in the comments.
Comment down below if you're more knowledgeable. But you know where Saint Nicholas is exactly how he originally was in Russian Orthodox Church. Nikolai Chudotvorets, Nikolai it's Saint Nicholas in Russian Orthodoxy. There is a very popular saint. So I think he's the same person as this as the original Santa Claus, but he's not in the Santa Claus role. He's just a saint.
Yes,
I might be wrong as well. Comment down below.